Good afternoon and welcome to our special Gotan-e Service. Gotan-e celebrates the birth of our founder Shinran Shonin, who was born on May 21st, 1173. Viewing Shinran's life, he did not live a fortunate life filled with happy environmental conditions. Both his parents were gone at an early age, and he encountered many hardships throughout his life. But his spiritual experiences, which evolved under many trying conditions and in many places, have given followers of the Buddhist teachings an answer to the purpose of life in this world. We are fortunate to have with us today Reverend Harry Bridge from the Oakland Buddhist Church. Let us begin with quiet meditation. Please sit quietly and place your hands together in Gassho. Sensei will ring the bell to begin and end meditation. Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please stand for the opening gatha, Namo Amida Butsu, on page 174. This will be followed by the reading of the three treasures on page 8. Three treasures on page 8. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. We will continue with the chanting of Sambujo on page 24, and today's sutra will be led by Reverend Bridge. Today's sutra will be Junirai on page 93.
Amida Tathagata, the embodiment of wisdom and compassion, to observe the birth of our founder, Shinran Shonin. We acknowledge our gratitude to Shinran Shonin for clarifying and transmitting the Nembutsu, allowing us to be ourselves, embraced and uplifted by the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha.
I was wrong. I said Junira.
That's okay. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo. Namo.
Today's Dharma talk will be given by Reverend Harry Bridge. Reverend Bridge has been the resident minister at the Oakland Buddhist Church since 2009. He studied Buddhism at the Institute of Buddhist Studies in Berkeley and Rukoku University in Kyoto. Sensei is also the coordinator of the Shin Ministerial Program at IBS.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Let's begin the Dharma message with Gassho. I'd like to read one of Shinran Shonin's wasans. Those who, uttering Amida's name and truly attaining Shinjin, always mindful of the Buddha, wish to respond to the great compassion. Mira no myogo o tonai tsutsu, Shinjin makoto ni uru hito wa, okunen no shin, tsune ni shite, Utton hozuru omoi ari. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo. Okay, I'd like to begin my talk with some math. Ready? You might want to get your calculator out. Okay, what's 2,023 minus 1,173? You might be able to guess. It's a number we've been hearing lately. 850. Yeah, because Shinran Shonin was born in 1173, and it is now 2023. So this year is the 850th anniversary of the birth of Shinran Shonin, our founder. But even more special, May 21st. Today. So today, 850 years. We usually don't get to do the special service on the actual day. It just happened to match up this year, right? So I thought that was pretty neat to discover. It's probably not that big a deal because May 21st is according to the solar calendar, but Japan, China was all lunar calendar, right? And even Japan until Meiji period was lunar calendar. So I think that the May 21st is kind of an approximation, right? It's the 5th month, but in lunar, that means the 5th lunar month, right? So the 5th month since whenever Lunar New Year's was this year. And it changes every year because it's not solar, right? But still, I think it's pretty cool. May 21st, to realize, wow, what a special day, right? What a special opportunity. Several of my very important temple members weren't at temple today because they're in Japan. They went to Japan for the special 850th observance, and so I had to set up everything. I'm not complaining. I had to set up everything myself, the Naijin, like the Kuchishiki, like here. At least I didn't have to set it up here too. This was all set up for me. Usually my template's all set up too. But the setup, no organ, because my organ player was gone, and so I had to play it from my computer. My tech person, my main tech person, wasn't feeling well, so I had to do all that stuff myself. So that's partly why I was late. It wasn't, I shouldn't, people are saying, oh, I'm sorry the traffic was so bad. It's like, it wasn't that bad. I don't want to lie, right? It's because it was just a very busy day. But I'm really glad to be here and get to speak to you on this special day. So, I gotta write some of this stuff down. I was ready to jump on the Junii. I was like, I don't remember choosing that one. Right? But then I was like, I can do a Dharma talk on that. So one of the questions, don't worry, it's fine. Why Shinran? What's the big deal? Probably traditionally that's not the way to ask, but why not? Right? That we talk about Shinran a lot. We point to him so much. The tradition says he's a manifestation of Amida Buddha. I think it's in Kapunyo's biography. Right? So not just some normal person, this was Buddha coming to us. Right? If you go to Japan, to Nishihonganji, there's two halls. Right? The Amida-do, which has an Amida statue, and then the Goe-do, which has the statue of Shinran Shonin. So Shinran Shonin's image is the central image, the Gohonzon, the object of reverence. And apparently, that statue has the lacquer has Shinran's ashes in it. So it is Shinran in a way. Right? The ashes, the relics, like the Buddha. Right? So for traditional Buddhist Shakyamuni, a stupa contained the relics of the Buddha, and that was considered Buddha is here. Buddha's body. Right? Buddha, in one way, Buddha's body is the Dharma. But in another way, his physical body is found in the stupas. So similarly, in our tradition, we don't emphasize this. Right? In modern Buddhism, people, that's all made up, it's all myth. But it's part of the tradition. And I kind of like it. I think it's cool. But even then, so what? Why Shinran? So to me, one answer is that it's a very, very special teaching. The teaching of Nembutsu, the teaching of Shinjin, other power, the primal vow of Amida Buddha. That these things are, this teaching is so special. And part of it is because it's a Buddhism for the ordinary person. It's Buddhism for regular people. You don't have to be special. I know I'm all dressed up, I got the special robes on, and I got the Gojo Kesa, right? I'm not just wearing Wagesa, I'm wearing the special clothing and everything in honor of this special service. But at the same time, I'm not better than any of you. I really shouldn't be up on this podium. I should be down there on the same level, so that we're all on the same level. Right? That this is a teaching for ordinary people. That's one of the great expressions of Shinran Shonin. Ondobo, ondogyo. Fellow travelers. Right? The fellow travelers on the way. Shinran didn't see himself as so special and so important with disciples and people down below him. Right? He saw himself as equal to them and them as equal to him. So this teaching of equality, this teaching for ordinary people, part of that is because Amida Buddha accepts me as I am. Sono mama. Amida Buddha accepts each one of you as you are. You don't have to change. You don't have to feel like I'm not good enough. You don't have to feel like, I don't really fit into society, so I don't know if I fit in the temple too. Amida Buddha accepts you as you are. Nothing needs to change. So this, incredible teaching to me. That term, ordinary person, it has other translations, right? It's bombu. Bombu. So it's not just ordinary person, it can also be foolish person. Right? The foolish person. And I feel comfortable saying that here, because I know, I'm just looking out, I think you can handle it. Right? I think sometimes, maybe modern America, some people, that might turn people off. What do you mean, foolish? I'm not foolish. You putting me down? But that's not what it's about. I find the foolishness in myself. I'm not calling you a fool. I'm seeing myself as foolish. And it manifests in so many different ways. This foolishness, this ordinariness. I was trying to be calm driving over here. Traffic wasn't that bad, but there were some spots. Richmond San Rafael Bridge. When we're in traffic, fine, right? But when we're in driving fast, leave cushion, right? You want to leave a cushion around you because when you're going really fast, it takes a long time to stop. But we're on a 2-lane highway, and there's nobody in front of you. Don't leave 50 car lengths between you and the car in front of you, right? And especially don't drive next to the person next to you, blocking the whole road. I'm sitting here, judging and yelling and, just trying to, okay, calm down, come on, get out of the way. And I finally get to go around them. And then they end up catching up because there's traffic. But that's me. I know, right? I know better. I know what's going on. It's Sunday. Sunday drivers, and I get mad again, But I know it's Sunday, but that doesn't mean left lane's the cruising lane, right? So I find that in myself, right? It was nice because I got finally to, when you get off of 101 and take that exit, and then there's a couple stoplights, right? So I was able to quickly check my email, and they got the message. But even before that, I switched my music to Enya. You know Enya? I don't normally listen to Enya, but it's really mellow, happy, gentle music. So I switched to that, I read the email, and I realized, oh, shoot, right? They know. So I was able to calm down, relax, right? I pulled in, get greeted, and okay, good. Come and meditate a little bit, really, right? Calm down. But I got worked up again when I started thinking about driving, right? So it doesn't last that long. But this kind of foolish nature. And it's different for each one of us, though, huh? I think we each have our own things that make us mad, right? We each have our own things that stress us out. We each have our own things that we really want, really like. We each have our own things when I think, where we have tunnel vision. I think that's a lot of it, right? I think I know. No, I take that back. I know. Come on, I know this. What's wrong with you? Why don't you know? Really? Do I really know? It's when I'm able to kind of, for me anyway, for whatever reason, question that. Do I really know? Am I really right in judging this other person? And sometimes when I'm able to kind of let go of that, and then I realize, the thing that's bugging me about that person, it's me. That's in me. I think this happened recently during the pandemic. I thought someone was being really mean and ridiculous online in a Zoom meeting. We do a lot of Zoom meetings now, right? I got so mad. How can they be like that? And then finally, a few days later, I was thinking about it, and I realized, wait, I'm mean sometimes. I can be mean. I can't help it. And I know it when I'm doing it, and I can't stop. I just say these kind of pointed things that I just shouldn't say. There's no point. Who am I to be judgmental? But I do it. Another thing I realized, I got it from my mom. Yeah, it's really interesting. Once, I had a friend, he had lost his license because of drunk driving, living at home, all this stuff, but we got along and everything. And once he came over, and his father had passed away. And so my mom says to him, your father must have been so ashamed of you. And both of us are sitting there like, did we hear that right? Did she just say that? Okay, whatever, Mom. We're going out. See you later. Like a week later, she came up to me and she said, I can't believe I said that to him. And I was like, whoa, you noticed? Wow, you actually noticed? You realized you said that? 30 years later, I realized I do the same thing. That I can just make these kind of pointed comments that are hurtful, right? That show that I'm better, I know better. And so, in one point of view, I can be like, my mom was mean, this person in the meeting was a jerk. Right? But bigger picture, realize, oh my gosh, he's pointing me to myself. He's showing me myself. And I got it from my mom. My mom passed away 23 years ago in a couple months. And I used to find this with my dad too. My dad died 22 years ago. And I'd catch myself doing things that he would do that annoyed me when he did it, right? And then catch myself doing it, right? I bet we've all had that experience, right? And at first it's like, oh no, I'm doing it. I can't believe it, I don't want to do that. But a couple times, this is taking place over a couple years. The next time I do it, I realized, oh wait, that's what my dad used to do. And then maybe the third time I realized, Dad, that's what I thought. And it's part of me. Right? That as much as I don't want to hurt people, as much as those things might be annoying, and I'm pretty sure they are, they annoyed me, they currently annoy my wife, so I know, right? I catch it, right? And yet, it's me. It's okay. It's not that I want to keep doing it. It's not that I want to indulge in doing that. And yet, it's me. And it's okay. Right? Maybe I encountered Buddhism 30 years ago. I moved out to Berkeley in 1996, almost 25 years ago. And maybe finally I'm getting it. To be able to feel okay with myself. Right? It's pretty amazing to me. And it doesn't mean that, again, that I still want to keep doing that stuff. I still would love to not be mean, and yet it pops out. But becoming more okay with that. Another flip side, I'd just like to share one more kind of story related to this. And it's related to compassion. Right? So one aspect of Buddhism is compassion. Right? The Buddha has perfect wisdom, perfect compassion. Right? Buddha being able to help people perfectly, so that when someone had an issue, he knew right the answer to give. Right? And that he could help others like that. And so I think part of our call as Buddhists is to try and be compassionate. I kind of hold these up as values. Right? Values of wisdom, trying to see things truly as they are. And value of compassion. You could even just say kindness, friendliness, right? Trying to help others. I think those are our values. That's what my values as a Buddhist, right? The top level values, wisdom and compassion. But that's where Shinran's really interesting, because I think he realized his limitations. Right? He became a monk at age 9, monk for 20 years on Mount Hiei, but finding during that time that he just couldn't do it. He couldn't accomplish the practices. He couldn't be a selfless bodhisattva, selflessly helping others. Right? And so he leaves the mountain, encounters Honen, and becomes a member of Honen's group, and then goes on to be exiled, right? And then teach to regular people for decades, passing on these Nembutsu teachings. So, we're having a pigeon problem at Buddhist Church of Oakland. I don't know if you have pigeon problems here at Enmanji, right? The pigeons, sometimes affectionately referred to as flying rats, right? Because they carry disease and, they're pests. So we've put up all this stuff around the outside, the netting, trying to keep them, because what they do is they nest in the rafters, and then you look down and you're like, ooh, I have to walk by that part. Nobody else does, but it's getting crusty because there's so much, especially during the pandemic, right? We do a lot of it. So we're trying to keep the pigeons away. And then recently I noticed we have these steps, and I noticed there's pigeons, a couple kind of hanging out. So I try to get them to go away and everything. Then I discovered, underneath this stairway, a broken egg. blue egg. So I was like, is that a robin's egg? What's going on? The next day comes along, and I notice there's a nest in the corner, and it's got 2 white eggs in it. And then I notice, oh, and there's the pigeon waiting for me to leave, right? Because it realizes I'm here, and it wants to nest, and it's been chilly in the East Bay, so it wants to protect its eggs. But as long as I'm there, it's waiting. Right? So then, even yesterday, I had memorial services, and people are going in and out. And at one point, this family was like congregating right there, outside, right by the nest. And I go up and I look, and the pigeon's not moving. It's on its nest. Like, when are these people going to leave? But I can't leave my eggs. So I asked, can we not either go inside or come out? Because there's a pigeon over there. Like, oh, we didn't even see it. So one of my members is very wanting to get rid of the pigeons, so I'm afraid to tell them. Right? And another one also, but the second one came up to me today and said, Sensei, the pigeons over here. And I was like, yeah, there's a nest, right? He goes, yep. And I was like, I don't want to do anything about it yet. He goes, oh yeah, we can't. There's already eggs. I was like, whoa, I thought he was going to be like, get rid of the pigeon, get rid of the pigeon. But he's willing to leave it for now. Right? At least till the eggs hatch, maybe. We'll see what happens. And yet, I can't truly protect the pigeon. I can't protect it from raccoon, cats, right? Whatever it came and ate the other egg, I can't protect it. I'm not going to sit around with the pigeon watching it. That's what I have to do to truly protect the pigeon. We can help in a little bit, and the one member is willing to leave it alone. We'll see what the other one thinks. If the other one goes today and finds it, they'll probably get rid of it, right? So I'm playing this game. Do I tell him and ask him not to, or do I not tell him and hope he doesn't find it? Right? It's like the gamble. That's the extent of my compassion. That's as much as I can do. And so part of Shinran's teachings, I think, is this recognition. My compassion is limited. If only we could help others as we wish. Very often we can't. But then, so what do we do? Right? Here's the question, here's the rub. Okay, I don't have to do anything. Right? Oh, I can't do anything. I don't have to do anything. I don't think that's the answer. Oh, I'm going to put all my energy into protecting this pigeon and the babies. That's not the answer either. Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle between these two extremes. I think that Shinran was aware of the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. Even if he couldn't realize it, even if he couldn't attain enlightenment himself, he encountered it. Right? That he had this encounter with the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. Sometimes it's expressed as an embrace. How the Amida image is an aside. The Amida image like this, with one hand's like down with the OK sign, right, and one hand's up. And I was wondering, there's no good way to explain that, but I heard Reverend Mezu, Kodo Mezu, our former bishop, right, and former BCO minister, right, he explained it. Amida wants to give us a hug, right? Amida wants to hug us. And that's interesting because of that embraced, never to be forsaken. Sesshu Fusha. Right? It's an expression from the Contemplation Sutra, but this embraced, never to be forsaken. Right? This embrace of wisdom and compassion. Embracing me as I am. And maybe even changing me, uplifting me, transforming me. That's one of the questions. Embraced by Buddha, but does anything change? Am I not still a foolish being? My experience says yes, right? And that I do continue the stuff I said earlier. And yet, I think totally different than if I'd never encountered the Dharma. That I feel like I've been embraced, transformed. The poem that I read at the beginning is actually Wasa number 1 from the Jodo Wasan collection. Wasans are these poems or songs that Shinran wrote. Right? And so if you ever chant Shoshinge Nembutsu Wasan, right? So you chant Shoshinge, and then the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. I'm going to go all the way. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu no Kono Katawa. And then you chant the Wasan. And then you chant Nembutsu again. And then you chant another Wasan. There's 6 usually. Right? So we talk about chanting the first 6 Wasans, but actually we're chanting Wasans 3 through 8. Because there are 2 that aren't chanted at the beginning. And this is the first one, number 1. So can I read it again? Those who, uttering Amida's name and truly attaining Shinjin, always mindful of the Buddha, wish to respond to the great compassion. So in Japanese it's Mida no myo go tonai tsutsu, Shinjin makoto ni uru hito wa, okunen no shin tsune ni shite, Button hozuru omoi ari. So the first 2 are interesting. So we say Nembutsu a lot, huh? Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. So those who uttering Amida's name, Mida no Myogo, right? The Nembutsu is actually Amida's name. Namo Amida Butsu is Amida's name. But it says Tonai Tsutsu, which is like simultaneous with that. So as we're uttering the name, and so the person who uttering Amida's name and truly attaining Shinjin, Shinjin makoto ni uru, Shinjin makoto ni uru hito, right? The person who saying the name and truly attaining Shinjin, this entrusting mind, entrusting in the Buddha. Okunen no shin, tsune ni shite. So with a mind always mindful. Button hozuru omoi ari. Button is the Buddha's compassion, the Buddha's benevolence, and then hozuru, like ho-om. This is Gotan-e, not ho-om-ko, but I think it's such an important idea, right? This idea of ho-om, responding to the benevolence, responding to the compassion of the Buddha, right? So that we're saying the name, we're living our lives, something's breaking through, I'm being changed by Buddha's mind, by Buddha's compassion. This Shinjin, I come to entrust in the Buddha. Right? Sometimes that means, I think this Buddhism stuff sounds pretty cool. I'm going to look into it more. Right? I kind of believe there's something here. This is different. That's me believing. Right? This is something different. This comes from the Buddha. So even though it says uru, to attain, very often it's tariki, so it's understood, it's coming. It's not me believing. It's me having this mind of trusting from the Buddha's side. Right? The Buddha brings me to entrust in the Buddha. So if that happens, right, then we become more mindful, although that gets covered up very often, and want to respond to this compassion. Right? Ho-on, or button ho-zuru, right? To respond. So how do we do that? One is we say Namo Amida Butsu. We say the Nembutsu in response to this compassion and gratitude. Right? So that's one way to understand this, right? That's why we're saying Namo Amida Butsu. I'm not saying it to try and grab enlightenment. I'm saying Namo Amida Butsu as thank you for having been grasped. But then I think it's how can we live our lives that we respond in other ways? Trying to think more of others. Maybe not even trying. Being brought to think of others more. Being brought to look at myself more. Right? To not be willing to just put that stuff under the rug, but look and see, be shown myself, like I was saying before. And so these experiences, of living a life of Nembutsu, finding oneself grasped by the wisdom and compassion, maybe finding oneself transformed, and yet the same. It's kind of paradoxical, actually. It's kind of like a koan in a way. This life where this foolish being, myself, and yet changed. brought closer to the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. So that's why at the beginning, during the Hyobyaku that I read, just something I came up with before this morning actually, he found the Nembutsu teaching, Shinran Shonin, where he could be himself, embraced and uplifted, transformed by the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. So I think just such an incredible, special teaching. I don't have to feel better than anybody else. Right? I don't have to, I don't want to judge anyone else. I want to be able to be the best person I can be. I think that's part of it too. Right? That I feel like embraced by the wisdom and compassion, we become capable of change. Right? As hard as it is to change myself, right? It keeps happening again and again and again, and yet being changed, right? Being transformed. As I live my everyday life. That's pretty amazing. Some kinds of religion, whether it's Buddhism or others, you gotta go someplace special, you gotta follow some charismatic leader, you gotta leave things behind, you have to do special stuff, go away for a weekend, we have to do that's for meetings, right? For PCA, right? But retreat for a week or something like that. Not here, right? We can live our lives embraced by this wisdom and compassion, this life of Nembutsu, this life of Shinji. So I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you and think about this stuff, and really appreciate your patience and your presence. Why don't we conclude the Dharma talk, and I'd like to read this poem one more time. Those who, uttering Amida's name and truly attaining Shinji, always with a mindfulness, wish to respond to the great compassion. Mida no myogo tonae tsutsu, shinjin makoto ni uru hito wa, okunen no shin tsune ni shite, utton hozu omoi ari. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo.
Thank you, Reverend Bridge, for your very insightful message. Please rise for our closing Gatha Ondoksan 2 on page 220. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Are there any announcements? If not, this will conclude today's service. I would like to thank Reverend Bridge for officiating and giving the Dharma talk today. Thank you to George Thau for the kansho and setting up the Onaijin. Thank you, Miyazaki, for setting up the music for us today. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we kind of have a special flower arrangement. We had Mrs. Fujimoto from Reverend Fujimoto's mother come and do a little lesson on how to arrange flowers for the altar, and she is the one that did the flowers yesterday. Thank you to the Mei Toban for their offerings. If you have not yet oshokod, please feel free to do so. Refreshments are served in the hall, and thank you everyone for attending today's service.